Just before a redneck had his first parachute jump, his sergeant reminded him, count to 10, and then pull the first ripcord. If it snarls, pull the second ripcord for your auxiliary chute. After you land, our truck will pick you up. The paratrooper took a deep breath and jumped. He counted to 10 and pulled the first cord. Nothing happened. He pulled the second cord. Again, nothing happened. As he plummeted to the ground, he said to himself, I'll bet that truck won't be there either. The old man placed an order for 1 hamburger, French fries, and a drink. He unwrapped the plain hamburger and carefully cut it in half, placing one half in front of his wife. He then carefully counted out the French fries, dividing them into 2 piles and neatly placing 1 pile in front of his wife. He took a sip of the drink. His wife took a sip and then set the cup down between them. As he began to eat his few bites of hamburger, the people around him were looking over and whispering. Obviously, they were thinking, that poor old couple. All they can afford is 1 meal for the 2 of them. As the man began to eat his fries, a young man came to the table and politely offered to buy another meal for the old couple. The old man said they were just fine. They were used to sharing everything. People closer to the table noticed the little old lady hadn't eaten a bite. She sat there watching her husband eat and occasionally taking turns sipping the drink. Again, the young man came over and begged them to let him buy another meal for them. This time the old woman said, No, thank you. We're used to sharing everything. Finally, as the old man finished and was wiping his face neatly with a napkin, the young man again came over to the little old lady who had yet to eat a single bite of food and asked, What is it you are waiting for? She answered, My turn for the teeth. A man is visiting his elderly father in a care home. The man asks how his father is settling in. Oh, it's wonderful, son. I made some great friends, I'm well rested, and at night the nurses give us a hot chocolate and a Viagra before bed every night. When leaving, curious to know about the Viagra, he asks a nurse, Excuse me, my dad told me that you serve him hot chocolate and a Viagra before bed every night. What? The nurse replies, Oh, the hot chocolate is to help them fall asleep, and the Viagra is to stop them rolling out of bed. A little boy named Lenny came bursting through the front door after school, absolutely beaming with pride. Mom, Dad, he shouted at the top of his lungs. The teacher asked the entire class a tough question today, and I was the absolute only one who knew the correct answer. His parents gasped, utterly thrilled to hear about their son's sudden academic breakthrough. That's amazing, Lenny, his dad said, smiling from ear to ear. We are so incredibly proud of you. So, tell us, what was the question? Sticking his chest out as far as it could go, Lenny replied triumphantly, Who farted? A nun was teaching Sunday school one morning and decided to ask the children a thoughtful question. Children, she said gently, when you die and go to heaven, which part of your body do you think goes first? Little Susie raised her hand right away. I think it's your hands, she said. The nun smiled. And why do you think that, Susie? Because when you pray, you put your hands together and God takes them first. What a beautiful answer, the nun said warmly. Then little Johnny raised his hand. The nun hesitated, but finally said, Yes, Johnny. Johnny sat up proudly. I think it's your legs. The nun frowned slightly. Your legs? Why would you say that? Johnny shrugged. Because last night I walked past my parents' room, and Mom had her legs straight up in the air yelling, Oh, God, I'm coming. The classroom went silent. Johnny continued, And if Dad hadn't been holding onto the bed, I think she would have floated right up to heaven. Bob staggered home after a night of drinking. He tiptoed up the stairs so as not to wake his wife, Kathleen, but tripped and fell on his butt. The whiskey bottles in both back pockets made the landing especially painful. He let out a scream, pulled down his pants, and looked in the hall mirror to see his ass cheeks cut and bleeding. Quietly, she managed to find a box of Band-Aids and stuck one where she saw blood. The next morning, he woke up to find Kathleen looking at him and saying, You were drunk last night, weren't you? Bob snapped. Why would you think that? It could have been the broken glass or the blood in the house, or your bloodshot eyes, Kathleen replied. But mostly, she continued, It was the Band-Aids on the mirror in the hallway. Susie had a terrible habit of falling asleep during the company's brutally boring Monday morning corporate meetings. One day, the big boss was presenting a quarterly review and asked, "Susie, who is the absolute key to our customer satisfaction?" Since Susie was fast asleep, she didn't answer. Johnny, who sat right behind her, took his sharp metallic pen and jabbed her hard in the back onto the table. Susie suddenly sprang upright and shouted, "The client, SIR, the client is king." "Excellent initiative, Susie," replied the boss. Susie promptly slumped back down and fell asleep again. A little while later, the boss called on her again. "Susie, what is the number one thing we need to eliminate to increase our profit margins?" Once again, silence. Johnny smirked like a total jerk and jabbed her in the back with his pen even harder. Susie shot up like a rocket and yelled, "Wasteful spending and bullshit." "Wow, aggressive but correct," said the boss, impressed. And once again, Susie drifted straight back to sleep. Near the end of the meeting, the boss asked a hypothetical strategy question. "Susie, what should our response be if the competitors try to force their way into our main market territory for the third time?" Johnny, thinking this was the funniest shit ever, poked her in the back with a sharp pen one more time. Susie jumped to her feet, slammed her hands on the conference table, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "If you stick that fucking thing into me one more time, I swear to God I'll break it in two." The boss fainted, the HR manager started crying, and Johnny just sat there thinking, holy hell, worth it. A guy was chilling by the lake when he caught a magical goldfish. And, as always, the fish started begging for its life. "Let me go, you fucking legend, and I will grant you any wish you want," said the goldfish. The guy yawned, looking completely bored. "Bro, I don't need anything. I have a massive mansion, a summer house by the sea, luxury cars, a cottage in the mountains, a yacht, and more money than I can spend. I only fish for the hell of it. Come on, please, have some mercy." The fish pleaded, getting desperate. "Just make a wish and throw me back into this dirty shit of a lake." The guy thought about it for a second, smirked like a total aholi, and said, "Well, okay. From now on, I wish that my wife and I always experience an orgasm at the exact same time." "Voila! Granted," the fish yelled. The guy smiled and tossed the fish back into the water. He happily packed up his high-end fishing gear, threw it in the trunk of his sports car, and started driving home, feeling like a king. On the 30-minute drive home, the jerk came twice. George wakes up with a brutal hangover after his company Christmas party. He's not much of a drinker, but those fancy cocktails didn't taste like they had alcohol in them at all. He can't even remember getting home. With his head pounding, he slowly opens his eyes, and right on the nightstand he sees 2 aspirins, a glass of water, and a single red rose. He sits up and notices his clothes, all neatly folded and pressed. The bedroom is spotless. The whole house is spotless. He shuffles to the bathroom, takes the aspirin, and nearly jumps when he sees a huge black eye staring back at him in the mirror. Then he spots a note hanging on the mirror, written in red ink with little hearts and a lipstick kiss. "Honey, breakfast is on the stove. I went to the store early so I can make your favorite dinner tonight. I love you, Jillian." Still confused, he heads to the kitchen. Sure enough, hot breakfast, fresh coffee, and the morning paper, and his 16-year-old son sitting at the table. George asks, "Kid, what on earth happened last night?" His son says, "Well, you came home after 3 a.m., completely out of your mind. You fell over the coffee table and broke it. Then you threw up in the hallway and ran into the door. That's how you got the black eye." George shakes his head. "Then why is the house spotless? Why is there a rose? And why did your mother make me breakfast?" His son grins and says, "Well, when Mom dragged you to the bedroom and tried to take your pants off, you yelled, 'Leave me alone, I'm married.'" One evening, a husband was relaxing on the couch with his wife after dinner. He was in a playful mood, feeling confident, and maybe a little too proud of himself. His wife was quietly reading a book when he turned to her with a smirk. "Honey," he said, I bet you $100 that you can't say one single sentence that will make me incredibly happy and deeply sad at the exact same time. His wife didn't even look up at first. She simply turned a page and said, "Are you sure you want to make that bet?" The husband laughed. "Absolutely. One sentence. Happy and sad at the same time. Impossible." She closed her book slowly, looked at him with a sweet smile, and held out her hand. "Pay up first," she said. He grinned, pulled out $100 bill, and placed it on the table. His wife picked it up, folded it neatly, and put it beside her book. Then she leaned closer and said, "Your penis is 2 inches bigger than your brother's." One evening, a mother was busy preparing supper in the kitchen when her young son walked up to her, holding a piece of paper. He had a look of serious anticipation on his face as he handed it over. After wiping her hands on her apron, the mother looked down and realized her son had written out an official invoice. It read, "For cutting the grass, $5. For cleaning up my room this week, $1. For going to the grocery store for you, 50 cents. Babysitting my little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. Taking out the garbage, $1. For getting a great report card, $5. For cleaning up and raking the yard, $2. Total owed, $14.75. The mother looked at her son standing there, waiting for his payout. She didn't get angry. Instead, a flood of memories flashed through her mind. She picked up a pen, turned the paper over, and began to write her own list. "For the 9 months I carried you while you grew inside me, no charge. For all the sleepless nights I sat up with you, doctoring and praying for you, no charge. For all the trying times, the worries and the tears you've caused through the years, no charge. For all the nights filled with dread, wondering what the future held for you, no charge. For your toys, food, clothes, and even wiping your runny nose, no charge. Son, when you add it all up, the true cost of my love is no charge." When the boy finished reading what his mother had written, huge tears welled up in his eyes. He looked straight at her, choked back his tears, and said, "Mom, I sure do love you." Then he grabbed the pen, and in giant bold letters across the bottom of the page, he wrote, "Paid in full." A thought for today. You will never truly realize how much your parents are worth until you become a parent yourself. Be a giver, not just a taker, especially with those who gave you life. There's so much more to give back than just money. One evening, a husband, feeling a little too confident for his own good, decided to tease his wife. "Maybe we should start washing your clothes and slim fast," he chuckled. "Could take a few inches off your backside." Cue the awkward silence. His wife, however, was not one to let such comments go unanswered. The next morning, as the husband reached into his drawer for a fresh pair of underwear, a mysterious puff of powder burst into the air. He coughed and blinked. "What the heck? April," he called out, holding the underwear at arm's length. "Why is there talcum powder in my boxers?" From the bathroom, his wife called back sweetly, "Oh, honey, that's not talcum powder. It's Miracle Grow." During class, a teacher trying to teach good manners asks the students, if you were on a date, having supper with a nice young lady, how would you tell her that? Do you have to go to the bathroom? Michael, just a minute, I have to go pee. Teacher, that would be rude and impolite. Teacher, what about you, Peter? How would you say it? Peter, I am sorry, but I really need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Teacher, that's better, but it's still not very nice to say the word bathroom at the dinner table. And you little Johnny, are you able to use your intelligence for once and show us your good manners? Johnny, I would say, darling, may I please be excused for a moment? I have to shake hands with a very dear friend of mine who I hope you'll get to meet after supper. 3 people arrive at heaven's gates and are greeted by St. Peter. Before letting them enter, he gives them one simple warning. Welcome to heaven. Just remember one thing. Whatever you do, don't step on the rabbits. The 3 nod and walk inside. Almost immediately, they notice rabbits everywhere. Thousands of them. They hop across pathways, nap under trees, and seem to be in every corner of heaven. The first person tries to be careful, but accidentally steps on a rabbit on the very first day. Poof! St. Peter appears beside him with the grumpiest-looking woman he has ever seen. Without a word, St. Peter chains them together. The consequence for stepping on a rabbit is spending eternity chained to this person. A few days later, the second person also slips and steps on a rabbit. St. Peter instantly appears with another unpleasant-looking partner and chains them together as well. After witnessing both punishments, the third person becomes incredibly cautious. Day after day, week after week, month after month, not once does she step on a rabbit. Then one morning, St. Peter suddenly appears with an unbelievably handsome man. Tall, charming, movie star handsome. Without saying a word, St. Peter chains them together and walks away. The woman can't believe her luck. She smiles and says, "I have no idea what I did to deserve this." The man looks at her, sighs, and replies, "I don't know about you, but I definitely stepped on a rabbit." In the cozy kitchen, just before leaving for another long deployment, an Army officer shares a tender moment with his wife. He starts, "Sweetheart, I'm going to be away for another year." Her eyes fill with both affection and worry. "Oh, I'll miss you terribly," she replies. With a playful glimmer in his eye, he adds, "I'll miss you too, and these lovely ladies of yours." Blushing, she teases, "Maybe you should give them some extra attention now to make up for the coming year." His face immediately brightens. "Absolutely. I promise to squeeze a little extra love into every month I'm gone." And so he begins his countdown. May, a gentle squeeze. June, another squeeze. July, and he continues, naming each month with a playful rhythm. Suddenly, he notices their 10-year-old son, Michael, quietly standing nearby. In a rush, his wife exclaims, "Oh my goodness, Michael, when did you get here?" After a moment of thoughtful silence, the boy shrugs and replies, mid-September." A man boards an airplane and takes his seat. As he settles in, he glances up and sees the most beautiful woman boarding the plane. He soon realizes she is heading straight toward his row. A wave of nervous anticipation washes over him. Lo and behold, she takes the seat right beside him. Anxious to strike up a conversation, he blurts out, "So, where are you flying to today?" She turns, smiles, and says, "To the annual Nymphomaniac Convention in Chicago." He swallows hard, instantly overwhelmed with excitement. Here is the most gorgeous woman he has ever seen, sitting right next to him, and she's going to a convention of nymphomaniacs. Struggling to stay composed, he calmly asks, "And what's your role at this convention?" She flips her hair back, locks eyes with him, and says, "Well, I try to debunk some of the popular myths about sexuality." "Really?" he replies. "And what myths are those?" She explains, "Well, one popular myth is that African American men are the most well-endowed, when in fact Native American men are more likely to possess this trait. Another myth is that French men are the best lovers, when actually men of Jewish descent are generally considered the most skilled romantically." "Very interesting," the man replies. Suddenly, the woman becomes embarrassed and blushes. "I'm sorry," she says. "I feel so awkward discussing this with you, and I don't even know your name." The man extends his hand and replies, "Tonto Goldberg." Little Johnny's elementary school teacher was trying to give the class a quick lesson on critical thinking and deductive reasoning. "All right, class, let's imagine a scenario," the teacher explained, pacing in front of the whiteboard. A husband is standing up in a small wooden boat right in the middle of a deep, fast-moving river, trying to fish. Suddenly, he loses his footing, tumbles over the side, and begins frantically thrashing around and screaming for help. The kids listened intently as the teacher continued. Now, his wife hears all the screaming from their nearby cabin. She knows for a fact that her husband cannot swim a single stroke, so she immediately drops what she's doing and runs as fast as she can down to the bank. The teacher looked around the room. Can anyone tell me why she ran straight to the bank? Little Johnny's hand shot up into the air instantly. The teacher sighed, but called on him anyway. Yes, Johnny. What do you think? Johnny grinned mischievously and replied, to withdraw all his life savings before it's too late? A woman who had been married 3 times walked into a bridal shop one day and told the sales clerk that she was looking for a wedding gown for her 4th wedding. Of course, madam, replied the sales clerk. Exactly what type and color dress are you looking for? The bride-to-be said, a long, frilly white dress with a veil. Please don't take this the wrong way, madam, but such dresses are usually more fitting for the first-time bride who is more innocent in the ways of life, if you get my meaning. Well, replied the customer, a little peeved at the clerk's directness, I can assure you that a white gown would be quite appropriate. Believe it or not, despite all my marriages, I remain as innocent as a first-time bride. You see, my first husband was so excited about our wedding, he died as we were checking into our honeymoon hotel. My second husband and I got into such a terrible fight in the limo on our way to our honeymoon hotel that we had that wedding annulled immediately and never spoke to each other again. What about your third husband? That one was a politician, said the woman, and every night for 4 years he just sat on the edge of the bed and told me how good it was going to be, but nothing ever happened. One day, an old Ukrainian man found an antique lamp. He starts it to polish it off, and poof, a genie appears in a cloud of smoke. Ho ho, mortal, says the genie, stretching and yawning. For releasing me, I will grant you 3 wishes. The old man thinks for a moment and says, I want Genghis Khan resurrected. I want him to reunite his Mongol hordes, march to Ukraine's border, and then decide he doesn't want the place and march back home. No sooner said than done, thunders the genie. Your second wish? Okay, I want Genghis Khan resurrected. I want him to reunite his Mongol hordes, march to the Ukraine's border, and then decide he doesn't want the place and march back home. The genie scratched his chin in confusion. Well, all right. Your third wish? I want Genghis Khan resurrected. I want him to reunite his Okakok, right? What's this business about Genghis Khan marching to Ukraine and turning around again and again? The old man smiles.